Do you have too much money? Boy, do I have a solution for you. Buy a GBBR. Hey people, it is I, that GBB guy, and today we're going to be talking about 5 things that you should know before buying your first GBBR. Now, these tips might not be useful to you if you're an experienced gas blowback rifle user or if you've played airsoft for quite a while. But if you're new to GBBRs, I hope that these tips will steer you in the right direction. The first thing is to get a replica that most fits your personal preferences. Because unlike with an AEG, you're actually going to be racking the bolt, you're actually going to be using the bolt release on a regular basis. So it's much more important to make sure that you actually like the design and the controls and the fit and feel of the replica. As an example, an M4 replica is going to feel much differently than an Uzi. For example, you're going to have a different trigger pull. You're going to have a different feel when the bolt cycles. Whereas with this Uzi replica, this is a KWC Uzi, it's open bolt. And when you pull the trigger each time, you're going to feel the bolt moving forward. So they are two totally different experiences, even though they are functionally doing the same thing. But it's not just the bolt. You're also going to be reloading more often because of the second point that I'm going to get into. Magazine capacity. You're going to need many magazines to equal a single high capacity AEG mag. Just for the sake of example, I have brought along a few gas blowback magazines. This is 11 GHK M4 magazines. These 11 mags only hold about 300 rounds combined. This is a single high capacity AEG magazine, which probably holds about 400 rounds. This costs maybe about $10, maybe $20, depending on where you buy it from. And usually it's included with your gun. These are about $50 a piece. Now, some gas blowback magazines are cheaper, but on average, GBB magazines cost about $50. And now for point number 3, which we're going to be using a kitchen scales for. This high capacity AEG magazine only weighs 0.45 pounds. However, this first generation GHK gas blowback magazine weighs 1.44 pounds, which is almost a pound more than the AEG magazine. This is the second generation GHK magazine, which is much lighter, coming in at only 1 pound, but that is still twice as much as the high capacity AEG magazine. This high capacity magazine is also probably a very similar weight to what you'd get with a mid capacity magazine. And of course, the important takeaway from this is that you are going to be carrying several pounds worth of magazines with gas blowback mags if you're carrying more than one. This means that you need to be physically fit enough to play all day carrying substantially more weight. So take that in consideration if you want to get a GBBR. However, I want to clarify, the weight of the magazines is not necessarily a bad thing if you want to train for carrying real steel magazines. Alright, moving on to item number 4. Make sure that spare parts are available for the replica that you want to buy. GBBR parts are under an extreme amount of pressure and stress from constantly slamming against each other. That means that the trigger assembly, the bolt carrier, piston, and hop-up unit are very likely to break. As an example, this is from a GHK AK-74U, and you can see that these parts should be attached, but the plastic connector has snapped off. For some guns, this would be a real issue, but for GHK, almost every single part of the gun is available for purchase, which means that all I need to do is order a new connector and we're good to go again. In comparison, we have the Elite Force M9. Now, this is not a rifle, but this gun has the issue I'm speaking of. Specifically, my gun has a broken disconnector, so it fires fully automatic even in semi-auto mode. I cannot fix that due to the lack of replacement parts available from the manufacturer or any other third party. That means that this gun is effectively out of commission until I can fix that, as all of my nearby fields only allow semi-automatic guns. Now, I will admit that this is a harder point to follow through with, as it is quite difficult to research the existence of spare parts for every replica that you buy. However, it is worth looking on Reddit or YouTube for the gun that you want to buy and see if there are spare parts available, or maybe even ask them. Ask the YouTuber, ask on Reddit, and see before you spend your hard-earned cash. And that brings us to our fifth and final point. Make sure that you maintenance your airsoft gun. These parts will wear themselves out eventually if not properly lubricated. So I recommend having 2 lubricants available at all times. The first one is a 100% silicone lubricant, which is a very thin lubricant, and the second is a silicone-based grease. Now, some people swear by white lithium grease and a few others like that. But what I like about the silicone-based grease is that it can safely be used on rubber, plastic, and metal. So you don't have to worry about ruining your piston or your rubber O-rings when putting it on the bolt. The oil should be placed on the magazine O-rings, on the O-rings on your piston, such as these ones right here. Whereas the grease should be placed on the rails, like here, here, and on the bottom. And where you can see where, that shows where the parts are rubbing together, and that's where you should grease. And the last thing to say about maintaining your new GBBR is to make sure that you clean it after the first several uses, because as the parts are breaking in, they're going to be leaving metal shavings inside of the gun, and you want to clean those out after every single use so that they don't cause unnecessary wear. After you stop seeing those metal shavings everywhere, you do not need to clean after every single use. Hello everyone, this is me from the future, and as I was editing this video, I realized how negative it sounded, and I didn't want to give that perception of GBBRs. In my opinion, GBBRs are one of the funnest ways to experience airsoft, and most replicas and most brands are reliable and are very well made. This video was just to help new GBBR owners, users who want to buy their first replica, and what to look out for and things to consider if you want to get into the GBBR sport, and things that you need to know. So I hope that this video did not put you off of buying a GBBR, but if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below and I will respond as soon as possible. So have a good one, guys, and I will see you in the next video.